Our daily Bible reading for January 31st. Our reading today comes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 17. Matthew chapter 17, beginning in verse 1, we'll read the entire chapter. And after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John his brother, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. And behold, there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. And Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is good that we are here. If you wish, I will make 3 tents here, one for you, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah. He was still speaking when, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice from the cloud said, This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell on their faces and were terrified. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, Rise and have no fear. And when they lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Jesus only. And as they were coming down the mountain, Jesus commanded them, Tell no one the vision until the Son of Man is raised from the dead. And the disciples asked him, Then why do the scribes say that first Elijah must come? He answered, Elijah does come, and he will restore all things. But I tell you that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but did to him whatever they pleased. So also the Son of Man will certainly suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he was speaking to them of John the Baptist. And when they came to the crowd, a man came up to him, and kneeling before him said, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic, and he suffers terribly. For often he falls into the fire, and often into the water. And I brought him to your disciples, and they could not heal him. And Jesus answered, O faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him here to me. And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the boy was healed instantly. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, Why could we not cast it out? And he said to them, Because of your little faith. For truly, I say to you, if you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, Move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. But this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. As they were gathering in Galilee, Jesus said to them, The Son of Man is about to be delivered into the hands of men, and they will kill him, and he will be raised on the 3rd day. And they were greatly distressed. When they came to Capernaum, the collectors of the 2 drachma tax went up to Peter and said, Does your teacher not pay the tax? He said, Yes. When he came into the house, Jesus spoke to him first, saying, What do you think, Simon? From whom do kings of the earth take toll or tax? From their sons or from others? And when he said, From others, Jesus said to him, Then the sons are free. However, not to give offense to them, go to the sea and cast a hook, and take the first fish that comes up. When you open its mouth, you will find a shekel. Take that and give it to them, for me and for yourself. Jesus' inner circle consisted of Peter, James, and John. They had just witnessed a spectacular display on what is known as the Mount of Transfiguration. Somehow it was made known to them that it was indeed Moses and Elijah there with Jesus. In Peter's haste, he asked Jesus if he can build 3 tabernacles or tents for them. It is then that the voice comes from the sky and proclaims, This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him, in verse 5. Imagine that you were on that mountain. What questions would you ask in light of what you had just seen and heard? Of all things, Jesus tells them they can tell no one until after he has risen from the dead. His disciples, knowing that the one they had seen was Elijah, asked Jesus why it is that the scribes say Elijah must come first. If Elijah was going to come before Jesus' death and resurrection, he was going to have to hurry. Jesus corrects him and points out that Elijah had already come in the form of John the Baptist. Those who killed John the Baptist did not realize who he was. Now those same people will kill the Son of Man. They obviously have not recognized him either. The Gospel of Mark tells us that the disciples were especially perplexed by what he meant by rising from the dead. We read in Mark chapter 9 and verse 10, "And they seized upon that statement, discussing with one another what rising from the dead might mean." How confusing this must all have been to them. There would be a time when all of this would come into focus, but until then, they would simply have to wonder at those things which they beheld there on that mountain. But Luke chapter 24 and verses 6 through 8 tells us, "He is not here, but he is risen. Remember how he spoke to you while he was still in Galilee, saying that the Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and the third day rise again." And they remembered his words. A question of the day. Have you ever become discouraged because you could not understand a passage only to learn its meaning later in life? And finally, a thought for the day. Things we do not grasp today may possibly someday in the future come to light. The key is to not become discouraged. And those are our thoughts for today, January 31st.